Tell us a little bit about our short for the viewers at home.
The short film?
Yeah.
So it is a story about a woman that is pregnant and resorts to homelessness in order to escape a domestic violence situation.
Where was the inspiration for the story?
There were a couple of things that inspired this story. I've got a big heart for the homeless community. It's always been a passion of mine. Unfortunately, I've seen a couple of friends in situations in their marriage similar to the character's story. And also just from an actor's standpoint, I was kind of itching to do a little bit of a grittier role, and so all those things combined kind of created the story together.
What I really loved about the film is that she came from a middle to upper middle class family, and she made this decision on her own. You see her leaving, and the husband's, being combative, and she's getting in the car, and then next time you see her is at a gas station, her credit card gets declined. So tell us a little bit about, what happens to these women, because most people think that people are homeless because of bad choices,
right.
Drugs or gangs or whatnot, but
right.
A lot of times it's just life.
Yeah, I mean, if you take the time to ask those people how they got in those situations, you're more oftentimes than not going to find out that they were people just like us in a couple of years of avalanching down, the wrong path that was, whether it was their fault or not, got them into the place that they are. There's a lot of homeless people that were veterans and they're dealing with PTSD, and a lot of domestic violence situations where the mother is trying to escape with the kids, but they have nowhere to go. And so, I think it's very important to look at those people as people instead of looking at them as, they did something wrong that got them there, because truthfully any one of us could end up in a situation similar to that.
You and I were talking on the red carpet last night, and you said something that really stuck with me and has stuck with me since our conversation is we don't get to know people's names. It's something as simple as, hey, my name is, and we look at them as people who are unbathed, who are in tattered clothes, but we don't do something as simple as go out of our way to say, hey, what's your name?
Yeah.
Because that's who we are as a person.
I've gotten opportunities to work with people in the homeless community before, and that is honestly their biggest request is like, no one ever asks my name. No one treats me like a person. No one, looks at me, and they don't treat me the same way that they treat the person standing next to me that's not homeless. And I think it's sad and unfortunate that they are not only, without a home, but they don't even feel like an equal human being to those of us that are in more fortunate circumstances.
So let's talk about you as an actress. You act, you're the main character, you're the homeless pregnant woman. How did this change you? What did you learn about yourself as an actress, but also too as a woman? So
this role is unlike one that I've ever played before, and so it was a challenge, and it was really fun to kind of dig deep and do some character study and get myself mentally in the place to portray a character like this. But also, while we were actually on set, there was one Saturday we just went downtown and shot a bunch of scenes, and I remember we ended up on Beale Street at the end of the night, and by the end of that day, I felt incredibly insecure just based off of people's reactions to me. I mean, it was odd that we had a camera crew following me around, but just the looks that I got from people before they realized I was on tape, they just thought I was a homeless person. It really got to me, and that was just from 8 hours of walking around like that. And so that really stuck with me is, what would it feel like to actually live this way and day after day be constantly rejected?
So talk to us about a little bit about the location, because in order to be in the Memphis Film Prize, you had to film within the boundaries of Shelby County.
Yes.
So talk to us about those locations, because the locations were really powerful, because you start out in the suburbs, or you start out in the city, and then you transition to the streets, transition to this park bench. So tell us a little bit about.
Yeah, so again, indie filmmaking, I knew that we were on a time crunch, and so earlier in the week that we shot, my husband and my son and I just kind of took an afternoon to walk around downtown and find a couple of spots that would work for each of the scenes that were in a short radius of a parking garage. And so I just kind of mapped out like, okay, well, this would be good for this scene and this would be good for this part, and we can drive over and do Beale here. And so we mapped out, you know, our downtown day. And then the following day we actually shot in my home. And so that's my kitchen that you're you're looking at when you watch the film.
So, what was your husband's reaction to this? You know, he's seen another man, you know, beat up another woman and acting very combative. Has this changed him, the way he sees things, and how has this affected him?
I think so. He is incredibly supportive, and I think he was really excited to be on set. And so it was a little more of like a technical mindset that he had with this one, as opposed to just a viewer, because he was, you know, behind the monitor making sure that everything was going okay, or making sure that we didn't need something from the other room. And so he was a little distracted with that. But I think watching it back, he was like, wow, this is really powerful. And it was his first set to be on, so it was cool for him to like watch the making of it and then actually watch it on
and
camera.
See you in action behind the scenes.
He's like, oh, I feel differently watching it on video than I did when we were actually shooting in person, because he wasn't really thinking about it that much in person, because he was standing in the same room as Jacob when we're cutting up and making jokes, and then all of a sudden we shoot a scene and then we start making more jokes. And so I think it wasn't until the actual first cut that we got, he was like, wait a minute.
Let's talk about filming in Memphis. You know, you're from Memphis, you live here, you work here. So why should studios and streaming services and production companies that shoot commercials and music videos, why should they come to Memphis and Shelby County and shoot? What is Memphis has to offer? Because when people think about the South, they think about the Swamp People show in Louisiana and Birmingham, and then you go to Atlanta, where that's really hot right now. But why should people come to Tennessee and Memphis in particular?
Tennessee, and Memphis specifically, has a lot to offer. When I was younger, there were tons of films coming through here, and I was auditioning as a child for things like Walk the Line. They did Big Fish, Black Snake Moan, 21 Grams. Like, there's so many films coming through in the late 90s, early 2000s, before the tax incentives changed. And you watch those films, like Walk the Line specifically, like, I feel the sweat that the characters had, and I kind of smelled, you know, the cornfields that I was watching. And I feel like Memphis is so diverse. You can go, you know, just past the Tennessee line into Mississippi, and you have one setting, and then you come downtown to another setting. You've got the suburbs, which is a whole nother setting, and a lot of cities can say that. But I think what Memphis has that differentiates it a little bit is just the rich culture. I love, you know, the rock and roll and the blues and the barbecue and being on the river, and
you got a big river that's a character in itself.
We do, and the signature Memphis Bridge in the background. It's just a distinct. There's lots of landmarks that are easy to point out, and it just, I don't know. It's hard to explain a feeling, but Memphis just has a feeling that's different than any other city.
One last question: did she go to church?
I'm sorry?
Did your character go to church? One last question.
You know what? Maybe we should make a feature and find that out.